Wow, look at that. Who would have believed that it would be out of pages today? Rabbi Listman will just be kfelling. Have we started?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let's start then. Good. Okay. Sweet, wonderful people. I want to learn today halachot pertaining to free time. But really much more about what to do during Bein Hazmanim. But I would say that the focus today is not so much on like how to structure your day. That is a very important discussion. You know that you need to shacharit, mincha, and ma'ariv are really very helpful anchors to structure your day, and you know to make sure that you spend some time involved in learning. But more, that's not what we're talking about. Structuring your day when you leave yeshiva, but it's more talking about which activities are appropriate and what sort of activities would be less appropriate during your free time. Now, I think that this is really perhaps more important. There's more important you to know what to do now than it is during yeshiva time. In yeshiva time, you always know what the right thing to do is and what the less right thing to do is. During Zman, you always know. But during Bein Hazmanim, it's harder to know. Like the chevra are going, should I go, should I not go? It's much harder to know, is this the right thing to do or not the right thing to do? So that's what I want to talk about today. Not surprisingly, but we're going to start with the Gemara. We're going to start with Psukim, and then go to Gemara, and then from Gemara go to quite modern poskim, talking about various leisure activities today. Some are great and some are less great, and I hope that we won't cover every leisure activity, but I hope we'll have guidelines to help us decide whether this is an appropriate thing to do or perhaps less so. Joy, happiness. Okay, so we're going to start. The Gemara in Eruvin tells us, Omer Rabbi Ilai, Bishlosha Dvarim Ha'adam Nikar. If you want to know a person, there are three ways to know them. Koso is meaning how much he drinks, but drinking here is talking about alcohol. You know what's a person like when they drink? What sort of person comes out? Koso, that's number one. The second one is kiso, and that is how they spend their money. Kiso is his pocket. That's really talking about how he spends. What do I decide to invest my money in? And the third one is ka'aso. How do they behave when they're angry? See what's a word that you would use to describe the three words together? Koso, kiso, ka'aso. What's the word? Alliteration. Do you hear the alliteration there? Koso, kiso, ka'aso. But then, amrile, others add, av besochko. Sochko is, what do you do during your free time? Now, I find this very, very helpful. I must tell you, let's say for myself, I feel a commitment. You see, you people have the great honor of learning in yeshiva all day long, which is really the greatest joy in the world. But let's say one day, Be'ezrat Hashem, in a different context, having a break means having a break from work, and then when you've got a break from work, you will dafka be going into the Beit Midrash. You follow? Like now for you, the break is to leave the Beit Midrash, but when you work and you have a break, the break will be going into the Beit Midrash, because that's what you'll be doing with your free time. You follow? But the way that I spend my free time is a fantastic indication for me of the sort of person I am. What do I enjoy doing with my free time? If I want to know who I am, other people get to know me as well. So the way that I choose to spend my free time is very, very saying. But it seems like, like you can be melamed zechut. Let's say I can't learn all day every day. I'm just not able to. I've got other commitments. But if I've got free time at the end of the day, even during Bein Hazmanim, you might be busy. Some of you are cleaning and doing other stuff. I haven't got a lot of free time. But if I've got an hour of free time and I use some of that time to learn Torah, So then that's saying, really, I wish I could do that all the time, but that's how I'm utilizing my free time. You follow? So the way that I utilize free time is a fantastic indication for myself and also for the world of what type of person I am, similar to kiso, koso, and kaaso. Okay, so that's why free time is such a phenomenal gift for us, because it's a way for us to understand, who we are. I get excited about certain things. Well, that must be who I am. You follow? If you find yourselves opening a sefer during Bein Hazmanim, you'll say, wow, I must really enjoy this. You follow? Because I'm doing it during Bein Hazmanim. It's a real deal. It's a lovely experience. I realize that's who I am. Okay. That's really just by introduction. But now we're going to talk about how to spend our time. So the very first pasuk in Sefer Tehillim says like this: Ashrei ha'ish, praise be a person, asher lo halach ba'atzat rishayim. He doesn't follow the advice of wicked people. U'v'derech chata'im lo amad, and he didn't walk in the way of sinners. Now look at this one. The third thing, uv'moshav leitzim lo yashav, and he didn't spend his time with leitzim. Do you know what leitzim is?
Jokers, no?
Jokers.
Yeah, like people make fun of.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, moshav leitzim is people that just I don't know, just
at a comedy club.
Oh, you're from New York, right?
Yeah.
So that's no, moshav leitzim, I think, is like people that make fun. Do you know what I mean? They're just like
mean people.
I don't know if they're mean, but they're not taking life seriously.
Yeah. Oh,
You follow Moshav Leitzim Lo Yashav. So that's that. So the mission there, this pasuk, is telling us a type of place I want to avoid. The pasuk is telling us I want to avoid, even during free time, Moshav Leitzim, and we're going to discuss what that might be. But a Moshav Leitzim is a place I want to make sure I'm not in, because it's compared, as we see in this pasuk, to following the counsel of wicked people, Atzat Rishayim, Derech Chataim, the path of the sinners. So what do you do? Ki im b'Torah Hashem chevtzo, u'v'Torato yegeh yomam v'layla. I want to involve myself with Hashem, and I want to engage in Torah day and night. Okay, that's the pasuk in Tehillim. I wouldn't say on that pasuk. Oh wow, how you doing? Misha. No, but this is, we got Pesach and Shushan next to each other, which I'm loving very, very much. Excellent. It's like each one's month is here. How are you doing? Shalom Aleichem. We're talking about utilizing free time. So we looked at a pasuk, Moshav Leitzim, I want to avoid. So now the Gemara uses this phrase Moshav Leitzim and gives an example of a Moshav Leitzim. This is what the Gemara says. Tanu Rabbanan. It's a brighter. Ha'olech, someone who goes to an Itztadin. Itztadin is probably similar to the word. Yeah, Itztadion, like a stadium. Stadium. You understand the Gemara over here is written in the Roman era, just after the Greek era. A stadium at that time is not like Teddy Stadium here in Jerusalem or the arena. Rashi says, what's a stadium? Makom, a place, shemenakhin et ashor, that they have bullfights. They used to go gladiators, exactly. That's what we're talking about. You have to avoid these places.
Equivalent to that would be nowadays soccer, football, all this kind of stuff.
Not necessarily.
Why not? It's the same thing. You go into the stadium and watch people do something like for fun.
No,
you enjoy it, like they.
No, but they're just like.
It may not be violent, but it's still.
So the truth is, we're going to come to talk about a modern football game later on in our discussion. But over here, it's not the stadiums of old were gladiator. There was blood and there was gore, and there was sort of like a victor and often one of the competitors didn't necessarily make it out at the other end. I mean, it's either going to be the shar, either it's going to be the bull, or the bullfighter. But one of them is not going to make it to the end. That's not a very...
You're turning death into like entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really not our cup of tea.
Basically, any movies with blood in it or any war movies is now okay to watch.
We're going to come to movies later on. We're going to come to that.
Gladiators are real. Don't make it. Take out the soccer.
Oh my gosh! If anyone needs to leave early, you're welcome. Okay. So this is a stadium. That's where they get involved in like gory stuff, and then karakum. Karakum is obviously this also comes from the word circus. What does Rashi say on the word karakum? Mitzor v'osim sham schok v'leitzanot. People are just fooling around. It's not a place where people take life seriously. Now, even during my free time... What?
This isn't Avodah Zarah.
Oh, we're going to come to that in a minute. About the Avodah Zarah, Chukat HaKohen. We're going to come to that. V'ra'ah sham et hanachashim you watch various things, and then, why is it no good? Why are all these things no good? You see, on the second line, Harei zeh moshav leitzim, v'aleim ha'katuv omer, ashrei ha'ish, asher lo halach, and then the pasuk finishes with the words Moshav leitzim ki ratzat Hashem chevto halamat hashorim halalu meviim et adam lidei bitul Torah. Taking time to invest in these sorts of activities lead you to bitul Torah. Now, I want to talk about this phrase lead you to bitul Torah because it's very, very important. You need Bein Hazmanim. Having a break from your learning is essential because you can't learn 24/7, 365. Because you need to lihit ra'anen. That's why we have tiyulim once in a while. That's why you have a breather. We have Fridays. Because you can't. It's just some people, incredible gaonim. But in general, people can't. Right? Now, notice over here, these activities are wrong. Not because they are bitul Torah, but you see what the Gemara says? Mevi'in et adam lidei bitul Torah, because they will lead you to bitul Torah. Why? Because these activities are not non-Torah activities, they are anti-Torah activities. Torah is a very, very serious endeavor. And if I'm going to go to an activity like this circus, and as a result of this circus, I'm going to take life less seriously, so when I come back to study afterwards, that's going to have a negative impact on my Torah learning. Likewise, witnessing the cruelty in like a bullfight, the impact on my neshama or a gladiators fighting it out, it's very hard to come back and then open my Bava Metzia afterwards. You follow? It's gonna have an impact on my relationship with the world, an impact with relationship with myself. It's gonna have an impact on my relationship with Torah. I can't, in my non-study time, I can't do an activity that is anti-Torah. You follow? That is that it will cause me to drift away from Torah. He's not talking about studying Torah, but he's talking about like a lifestyle that takes life seriously, that understands our goal in the world. We're here for a purpose. So anything that would cause me to distance myself from that appreciation of the world is not good, because it will lead to bitul Torah. The activity, I can breaks are good, but not a break that will make it harder for me to re-engage afterwards. You follow? Okay, so that's the Gemara and Rashi's explanation. Is that clear so far? Joy, happiness? Okay, now we're going to give one medieval example. No much later. Like 18th century example in the source number 5, and then after that we're going to go to much more modern examples. There is a very important rabbi, the chief rabbi of Prague, in the 18th century, chief rabbi of Prague. I think he might have died in 1770 something or 1780, around then. Anyway, his name is Rabbi Haskell Landau. Have you heard of Rabbi Haskell Landau? He wrote a very important book called The Noda B'Yehuda. Now, the reason why, he's very important for many reasons, but he lived at a very important place at a very important time. He lived in the capital of Europe, Prague, at the beginning of emancipation. That means that the Jews were beginning to leave the ghettos and were beginning to integrate into general society. So Jews were, they were becoming professionals, they were working, they were integrating into general society. And the rabbi that was there at the scene as Jews were becoming more integrated was Rabbi Haskell Landau, and therefore he's one of the most fascinating rabbis to study if you want to understand how how does a modern Jew integrate in the world. You follow? So he was asked a question that had never been asked before, because it never happened before. There was a Jew, and the Jew had a friend who was non-Jewish, which was incredible. There was nothing like Jews lived with the Jews, non-Jews with the non-Jews. First time Jews and non-Jews were interacting with each other, and he's the guy on the spot. So he was asked a question by a Jew who was invited by his friend, and his friend was a very wealthy landowner, and on Sundays, I guess, he would go out on a hunt. Like in England, the royal family probably still do. Maybe they don't. But he wants to go out on a hunt with this family. It's an excellent opportunity, integration, getting to know people. And he wanted to know from the Noda B'Yehuda if it was permissible for him as a Jew to take part in a hunt. That was the question. But it's an amazing question. You understand that this is a question that had never been asked before. This was the first time.
Be asked, we know how to kill animals.
Shchita, you mean?
Yeah, other ways are forbidden. Trap. You can trap. Who's going to trap if you got a shotgun?
Well, people do it.
Without Tzar Balei Chaim.
Oh, so you're saying forbidden. You're saying forbidden. He's not allowed to go on the hunt.
Like catch a deer in a trap that doesn't hurt it, and then shecht it, which would be very boring hunting.
Yes, that's not. I'm not sure that's. They're on their horses. This is not what they're. Yes, this is. But you're saying it's cruel, right?
Yeah.
Any other comments? Any other thoughts? Noda B'Yehuda's question.
Is it permissible to I guess it's permissible to have a Gentile friend, but to go on to do a explicitly Gentile custom that's not kind of anti-Jewish tradition in a sense.
Oh, you're good.
Right, one could say it's Chukkat HaGoyim in a certain sense.
So it's not. Chukkat HaGoyim is tricky because Chukkat HaGoyim needs to have an Avodah Zarah basis. We saw that when we discussed, we discussed the difference between New Year's Eve and Thanksgiving. That New Year's Eve is problematic because even though people aren't thinking about it, but the essence of it traces back to some religious foundations as opposed to Thanksgiving. So there's no religious background to hunting. Yeah.
It makes me think about Mevushal wine. You can't drink the wine that's poured by a goy.
Right.
But this is hunting. So I don't know.
Integration.
You can drink vodka with the Gentile.
You can drink vodka? Yeah, but I just said wine.
Yes. Okay, so the Noda B'Yehuda's answer is fascinating. There are two parts of the answer. I'll tell you the two parts, but I want to focus on the second part. The first part is very, very interesting because I'm going to summarize it. Is that okay? Rather than read it. He says there's no issue of Tzar Balei Chaim because Tzar Balei Chaim is causing pain for no reason. But if I'm killing an animal for a reason, then we'll wait for point 2 before you discuss that. But Tzar Balei Chaim is wanton destruction, but a bit like Bal Tashchit, just destroying for the sake of destruction. But if it's part of an activity, the hunt, I'm not destroying for the point of destruction. This is a leisure activity that people do. So
what are you going to use the carcasses for?
no, that it doesn't matter if I'm not going to use it.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
You're not going to use it if you like just cutting a tree down for the sake of cutting a tree down because cutting is fun.
Oh,
That's
so, no. So he would say Bal Tashchit is only when you do something for no reason at all. I'll give you even another terrible example of this. But this is, I have to say, this isn't the point I want to focus on. But I just want to give you another example. If I'm in a furious temper, as I'm sure you can all imagine happens all the time, right? And then I pick up a plate in my fury and I throw it against the wall and it smashes into smithereens. And then I feel better. Oh, sorry guys. Was that Bal Tashchit? So the answer is it's not Bal Tashchit because it was a therapeutic breaking of a plate. You follow? There has to be destruction that serves no purpose. And his argument here, but wait for point number 2, his argument here is that since this is a leisure activity, this is what we do on Sundays. You know, some people play Monopoly, some people go for a walk, and we go for a hunt. This is a leisure activity, therefore it wouldn't be Bal Tashchit because it's not pointless. I feel calmer afterwards. I get the excitement of I can't really talk about it because I have no idea. So on that issue, it's fine.
They did used to use them. They would use the pelts and they would make coats out of it or something. They would.
Yeah, okay, no, that's fine.
But isn't...
But like the
hunting just leaves the animal.
The hunting is like just doing it for fun. It's you don't say, okay, I'm going to hunt like 2 deers, 1 bear, and I'm going to stop. You hunt like for a time until you get bored.
Right,
like I also get excited by burning.
It depends if you're hunting for if you don't have a grocery store next to you, or because you're hunting.
Redneck, you like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first point. The first point is Bal Tashchit. We could spend a whole class discussing Bal Tashchit.
Could we do that?
Yes, but not today.
Okay.
But the second point is, he says, is forbidden because if I were to hunt, if I were to go on the hunt, I would be identifying with the group of people going hunting. And if I look in Tanakh and in Midrashim, the only people who are known as hunters are not necessarily the greatest people. The most famous hunter is Esav, exactly. Yodea tzai ish sadeh. So if I'm choosing to be a hunter, that means that I'm choosing to identify more as an Esav and less as a Yaakov, and on those grounds I'm not allowed to go hunting. You follow? Because every activity that I do, when I do that activity, I am with that activity identifying myself within a particular group of people. And the group of people who are the hunters are involved in an anti-Jewish activity. Why? We see from the Torah itself, the hunter is Esav, the Yoshev Ohalim is Yaakov. On those grounds, says the Nodab Yehuda, they're not allowed to go hunting.
So hunting is predatory also in a way. So it's like Esav, very has that element where it's not characteristic of someone who's like following halacha.
Yeah, quite right, exactly. Now, the concept that comes from the Nodab Yehuda, I think, is absolutely fascinating, is excellent. When I'm deciding, this is tip number 1, when I'm deciding my free time activity, so I want to know who are the other people, that will be taking part. Meaning, what tzibur is this geared towards? You follow? And if that tzibur that are part, that are coming to this activity, are not my type of people, then it's probably not a good activity for me to do. You follow? Does that make sense to you?
Well, there is a difference between bowling and hunting.
Bowling.
Like for as just an example, right? If he would go bowling with his buddies,
Yeah, that's
on a
fine.
Sunday,
Exactly.
that would be fine.
Exactly. It's not.
Here's a good question though. So is it better to go hunting with a bunch of like Bnei Torah or to go bowling with them with Shavlei Tzim?
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, but I don't think they're hunting with it. Couldn't happen, that one. Yeah, so bowling is a really good example. Bowling is such a. I mean, there's a wide variety of people there, and that's great. That is a love. You know, there's such a wide variety. I can see when I walk into a bowling alley. Once in a while, I don't know, there's 15 lanes, so there's 2 or 3 lanes there of people that are not a million miles away from me, and then 2 lanes that are actually a million miles away. You know, but that's not yeah, that's good. Yeah. But when I walk into an event, and that's mamash not my chevra, so then it's probably not an activity that I should be taking part in.
A bar.
And that is the Noda B'Yehuda. Point number 1. I think that's an excellent measure for us to know whether it's the right thing for us to do or not. Is that clear? Point number 1. Okay. Now, if we go to point number 2, point number 2 is Rav Moshe Feinstein. Rav Moshe Feinstein really follows on from the words of Dor or the words of David. I can't remember. But one of you said that you shouldn't go to football matches nowadays. Oh, David, excellent. Why? Because that takes place in a stadium. Right? Excellent. So now we know the stadium that the Gemara was talking about was not hosting a European Cup final. You follow? But it's still called a stadium. So the question is, what's the din of a modern stadium? And for that, we turn to source number 6, which is Rav Moshe Feinstein. So listen to what he says. Ha'im asur, he says, mitzad b'chukotehem lo telechu, lalecha leteatron, go to the theatre, itztadion, go to a stadium, itztadion sport b'yameinu. Is a religious Jew allowed to go to a theatre or to a football stadium or any sports stadium? Joy? Isn't it brilliant? Aren't you grateful that we have Gedolei Israel? Isn't it? I mean, it's, you know, he passed away many years ago and we are drinking his words. We are so grateful. So we're so lucky that we have these fantastic teachings. Okay, so listen what he says. Oh, Shalom Aleichem. How are you doing? What a treat. How are you? Should we sing you a nickun, or we'll just? I think we'll continue. Yeah, are you happy with that option? Okay. Oh, very good time because we're talking about Manhattan now. Because we're going to learn Rav Moshe Feinstein. Excellent. What perfect timing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you ever meet his son?
Yes, I did. I have a very interesting. I don't know, very interesting story about it. Basically, I was so happy to see him that I put my hand on his back, and I backwards, and one of his sisters was like, no, we don't. we don't touch the Rosh Hashiva. Like the Rosh Hashiva is like. So I was like, I'm sorry. And then he looked at me, he smiled, and it was like this to me.
Oh, wow.
Hunched over, and he was like, it's okay. It is just.
That's so holy.
Yeah. So, very nice man.
So this is the son. That's the son of Rav Moshe Feinstein. Lived on the Lower East Side, right?
Before he passed away 1 or 2 years ago.
Yeah, but I think he passed away on Purim actually. Rav Moshe Feinstein, many years ago.
The whole New York filled a whole stadium. I think it was 70 or 80,000 people of people who were doing Daf Yomi. Daf Yomi is 1 page of Shas every day for 7.5 years. Filled an entire stadium, and they gave the last cover, which is the biggest cover of finishing all of Shas for all these people, to the biggest person in American Jewry. And David Cohen and David Feinstein was selected, and David Feinstein said, "Thank you, but I want to give this to my good friend Shmuel Kamenetsky, and Sean Kamenetsky read it instead. But he acknowledged David, thank you for giving me this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, that's amazing.
What a beautiful midah to think of others or whatever.
That's amazing. So that's the son of Rav Moshe Feinstein. So Rav Moshe Feinstein is asked, but it's interesting because he lives in America. So he knows what a sports stadium looks like. He knows what a theatre is. He lives in Manhattan. So he's asked, when the Gemara talks about a stadium and a theatre, how do we treat the modern theatre or a modern stadium? You follow? So this is what he says. באלו שנקראו תיאטרון שעושים שם ענייני צחוק וכן איצטדיון שהם המקומות שמשחקים ספורט. So they play sports or theatre. לא שייכי בהו עניין ובחוקותיהם לא תלכו. It seems that there would be no problem in these places today of the Isur of bechukot, following the ways of the non-Jews. Tehu dafka kashu chok laha'akum. That's dafka chukoteim lo telechu only applies when I'm doing it because it's based on some akum. Akum is of de kochavim umazalot. When I'm following some idolatrous practice. I may not be following the idolatrous practice, but I might be doing something that has got its history traces back to some idolatrous practice. לעשות איזה דבר פעמה, אף כשאין זה מחוקי עבודה זרה שלהם. Even when it's not part of their avodah zarah, but it's following their practices. But to go to a sports stadium or to go to the theatre does not seem to be a problem of uvachukotem lo telechu. Now it continues. V'chadamuni, it appears to me, shakomarim, the komarim are like the heads of the church, de'emunat hanotzrim, following Christianity, shehu ata emunat rov umot haolam, that seems to be the majority of religious people in the world today are Christians. Nami lo nichabahu inyane teatron v'tztadion. They're not very excited about going to the theatre or going to a stadium. Gam lo nicha bezeh la'anshe emunat ha-Muhammadim. Likewise, the Muslims are also not excited about football stadiums and theatres. Shu emunat medinat Turkey. V'chol. Where do we go now? Medinat Arab. So he says it seems that these places are not, they're not places that the religious get excited at. שאם כן, רוב המדינות שבהן נמצאים תיאטרונות ואצטדיון, the places that have a theatre or stadiums, לא שייכי כלל לאמונתם. It's not a religion. שוודאי לא שייכי להלב וברכותיהם לא תלכו. There is no איסור of וברכותיהם לא תלכו, אלא הם מאיסור ליצנות וביטול תורה. But the issue seems to be Leitzanut is about not taking life seriously. Uvitul Torah. Now, Bitul Torah, as we looked at earlier, it's not only talking about that the activity itself is a moment where I'm not involved with Torah, but like we saw in the Gemara said that if I get involved in these activities, mevi'init hadam lidei bitul Torah, that afterwards, when I come back to the Beit Midrash, it may have a negative impact on my learning. You follow? It's not talking about wasting time because those 2 hours that I'm watching a football game, I could have been learning Torah, but it's how will that activity impact me when I return to the Beit Midrash afterwards? You follow?
How isn't it?
Huh?
How isn't it?
Because you can't learn all the time. You need a break. No, the assumption is that you need a break. We're going to look later on as well, when we look about Shabbat activities, that breaks are sort of built into the system. It's true, Torato yegeh yomam v'layla, like in Yoshua, nachon? V'agita bo yomam v'layla. But Bein Hazmanim, but every week. You have Bein Hastorim every day. Do you know what I mean? Like we have. You have a lunch break, an afternoon break, because we know that your mind will explode.
Oh, but notice how, even though he says it's not avodah zarah, he compares it to avodah zarah, and has to. If it was so obvious that it wasn't avodah zarah, he wouldn't have to mention.
Yeah, they're not. He's certainly not
But
excited about it.
He mentions that someone might think it is akin to idolatrous activities, and therefore, and he has to specify that it's not that. But
Right. So he does. He says it isn't. He says it isn't. He's not in favor, as we'll see on the last line. He's not in favor, but not because of uvechukoteim lo telechu. Now he says in the last line. This is quite a good line over here. Gam od isur gadol yesh. However, there is a problem. The magri yetzahara shel arayot benafshe. That sometimes there's certain activities that challenge me religiously, that they could stir up my yetzahara. They could implant but anti-Torah thoughts in my mind. We have various nisyonot, we have various challenges as religious people, that we live a lifestyle that is not easy. You follow? And then when I see people celebrating a lifestyle that is the opposite of what I believe to be holy, so then I could be lured into the power of that lifestyle, and that could lead me to Bitul Torah. So that's the danger that he sees. Does that make sense to you? The danger is that clear to you? I'm just going to finish the last few lines here. Because most of it is nivul, like bad language, v'hasatala arayot, and then leading to promiscuity. So,
Sport games?
well, he's talking about theatre probably more than sports games. Two stories on that in a minute. But what he's saying is that as we were saying, we live a certain lifestyle. The lifestyle that we lead is not easy. It's challenging. And when I go to an event that celebrates a lifestyle that is diametrically opposed to my Torah lifestyle, there is a great danger that I could well be, drawn into that. And even if I hold strong, it might make my Torah learning afterwards difficult. So that's the first point. He's worried about a celebration of a lifestyle that is anti-Torah that I might get by going to certain things, like not taking life seriously. Now, I'm not sure that would extend to, so there's lots of great plays on that could inspire people. It's really, who are the people that are there? Is it a celebration of a lifestyle that it's anti-Torah? So I want to tell you two stories on this issue. There is a very well-known rabbi here in Yerushalayim. His name, not in Yerushalayim, I think is in Moshav Matityahu. His name is Rav Zev Leff. Have you heard of Rav Zev Leff? A big American rabbi. Now, I hope I'm going to get this right. He has grandchildren that follow sports. And his grandchildren invited him to go to a sports game. Do you know about this? And he went. He went with his grandchildren and he brought a sefer.
And then it was Israel versus England, right?
Yeah, I think England caught in, and then
Israel scored a goal, and they decided to put the camera on him, and he was reading his Gemara.
yeah, well, you know how they zoom in after the goal to show the crowd going wild.
And then one of the announcers said he must have missed the goal.
Yes, I mean it's almost
I heard that from my Rav, and
yeah. So there was an amazing moment. He came, I suppose, because his children wanted to, but he was shakua balimud, so much so that when his team scored, he didn't notice, and they zoomed in on the crowd who were jumping, and he was shakua in his Gemara, and the whole but it was on the big screens around the world where they were watching this game. Okay, that was story number one. I'm not sure what that means about whether he says you should or shouldn't, but I guess for him Gemara is a more enjoyable activity. But then that's story number one. Story number two about taking breaks. I heard this story recently from the daughter from the daughter of Rav Soloveitchik. The daughter of Rav Soloveitchik. Rav Soloveitchik, who we may be learning, Be'ezrat Hashem, Rav Soloveitchik's daughter married Rav Aaron Lichtenstein. Rav Aaron Lichtenstein, who was a Rosh Yeshiva in Alon Shult. So recently she was talking about her father. I think it was just been her father's 120th birthday. So there was various programs, commemorating. He passed away 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago he passed away. Maybe even more than that. No. But anyway, He passed away many years ago, but because this would have been his 120th birthday. Anyway, she, Mrs. Lichtenstein, daughter of Rav Soloveitchik, told a story. She said when she was first married to Rav Lichtenstein, they went in the summer to a holiday home somewhere or other. Where do people go, like from?
Catskills.
Is it, let's say, Minastam? They went to the Catskills.
Moshe Feinstein, Rob David's father, always went to the Catskills.
Ah, yeah?
And Rob Schachter used to go and learn with him.
That is amazing.
Why would they go to the Catskills though?
Because it's in the summer, it's in the mountains, so it's the coolest place.
Yeah, so the reason I heard is because there's a lot of Pritzuk in the city during the summer. So you go upstate and you go.
He's not wrong.
Anyway, so Rav Lichtenstein, Gedol Ador, was up in the Catskills with his parents-in-law, Rav Soloveitchik and his wife, and he was steiging all day and all night. It was just like learning all day and all night. And Rav Soloveitchik said to Rav Lichtenstein, his son-in-law, you should close the sefer every once in a while. So then Rav Lichtenstein said, why would I, why close the sefer? So he said, it's like a good meal. Learning is like a good meal, that you need to learn, and then after you learn it, you need to digest it. And then after you digest it, you move on to the next meal. So there's an element of that in a break. A break is not, I'm not breaking off from my learning, but I've completed, yeah, exactly. The Bein Hazmanim is not, I'm not departing from the Beit Midrash, but you know how you finish the main course and then you chat for a bit at a restaurant and then afterwards you have the dessert? So that's Bein Hazmanim, is the chat. Is I can't take another steak because I'm full. I'm now digesting that which I had. So I like that way to view Bein Hazmanim, is really I'm digesting my learning rather than breaking, chas v'shalom. Okay, that is point.
I know a story about how Feinstein, like,
Oh yeah.
on the place like State Stadium and something. So one Jew opened a bar in America, and he asked Feinstein to give a bracha to it and to say something about it before they opened. And he came there. He asked him, "What do you do here?" No, after work, you gather, you have some drinks, you chat with your colleagues and stuff. And he said, "Chaval al hazman." Yeah, and then he writes in a big board, Feinstein said, "Chaval al hazman."
Oh yeah, that's terrible. That is terrible. Thank you for that, Shushan. Shushan is only 11 months till Purim. Are you excited? But the truth is, it's actually 12 because it's a leap year next year. But the first Purim, we have a Purim Katan. Okay, that was the second point over here is we are, the source number 7 is actually in Hilchot Shabbat, and he's talking about various activities. Shabbat is obviously a day of break, nachon. So what activities are appropriate to do on Shabbat? So Gemara tells us there's some very nice things that I like in the Mishnah Berurah in a minute. Look what the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch Orachaim Shin Lamed Chet Sif Hey. This is towards the end of Hilchot Shabbat. He writes like this: Mutar lischok ba'atzamot. You're allowed to play. This is certain, like I don't know, like a board game.
Called Bones, yeah. No, it's a board game called Bones.
No. I think that's the name of the piece. The game was called Ashich. Maybe that's even chess. Avopi shemashmiim kol ahoil ve'eno mechuvan lashir. It's not. I'm not doing it in order to make a sound. V'chol zeh b'sochek derek schok ba'alma. Aval b'sochek kedei laharviach asur. So you're allowed to play. Do you see that? You're allowed to play a game. You're not allowed to bet on a game on Shabbat, but you're allowed to play games. Afilu sochek b'tam v'chaser. Another game. Meaning a different game. You can play these games even though you're playing with money, even though, there's some people will gain and some people will lose. If you're playing it as a game, it's fine.
Like poker without betting money on it.
Exactly. It would be okay. מכל מקום, אין לנחות בנשים הקטנים, דמותם שיהיו שרוגים ועל יהיו מזידים. If people are, it's not necessarily the best thing to do, but if you see people playing, even when they're winning and losing, you wouldn't tell certain people to stop, because if they're not going to be doing that, they're not going to stop playing. So let them do it and not realize it's wrong, rather than do it and then realize that it's wrong. But the point, the reason why I wanted to quote this piece of Shulchan Aruch is in order to get to the Mishnah Berurah afterwards. We saw that there is a certain game that, assuming that you're playing the game in order just for the pleasure of playing a family game, it's fine to play the game on Shabbat. You follow? That's in the Shulchan Aruch. Now look what the Mishnah Berurah says. The Atzamot, these are the pieces of the game, for Nohagim. And we have the custom, la'asotam shel kesef. We should make the pieces of the game out of silver. Why? Shiyu miuchadim l'Shabbat. That I want to play the game in using more finer pieces, that I'm going to turn the game into a game that is mechubad lichvot Shabbat. Isn't that beautiful?
Like when those Monopoly pieces that are made out of, I don't know if they're made out of silver, but they're like metallic. Some of them, the limited edition ones have like gold.
That's amazing. No, it's like chess pieces, not made out of plastic on Shabbos. I'm not going to use my plastic set. I'll use my wooden set.
My ivory set.
Yeah, tell about that. The gap between our previous one about the hunting. Yeah, do you see that? Why? Because otherwise it looks like a weekday activity. So what am I doing? I'm taking my relaxation game and I'm turning it into a Shabbat activity. I love that idea. It's by using a special set for Shabbat, it means the game is no longer uvdin dechol, not like a weekday activity, but I'm turning it into a special Shabbat activity. So not only am I playing games, but I'm playing games, in a Shabbat manner. You follow? Okay. That was the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah. Everything clear until now? Okay, 2 more issues I want to discuss. And then we'll... the clock doesn't seem to be fully working here today. When I say not fully, not at all. We could keep going for ages. Okay. So there's a beautiful question. Asked to Rav Ovadia Yosef. Rav Ovadia Yosef was asked whether you're allowed to go to a bullfight. And we know really from the Rashi that we saw in the Gemara that you're not allowed to. But in his discussion of the bullfight, he then goes on to a diversion about going to the zoo. And I want to read to you what he writes about visiting the zoo. Meaning, is that a reasonable activity? Now look at this. This is such a beautiful story. I'm going to go halfway down. In the middle of the line, there's a full stop. And then after the full stop, there's a word, uva sefer. Do you see that? In the middle of source number 9. Uva sefer leket yosher, a book called Leket Yosher, He'id. He testifies, the author testifies concerning his teacher, concerning Rabbeinu Yisrael Isurlan, Baal Trumat HaDeshen, the author of a very important book called Trumat HaDeshen. Shehalach b'Shabbat, he would travel on Shabbat. Kivrat Eretz, he would walk a long way. Lirot zug arayot shuvu l'iro v'shar mekomo. He says one Shabbat there were some lions that had been brought into his town for the people of the town to look at, and he, the author of the Trumat HaDeshen, spent a long time on Shabbat walking so that he would be able to see these lions. You follow? That's not Bitul Torah. That is a lovely use of his time. Umaran, then he continues, Maran Achida, Besefer Midbar Kadmut. The Chida says, Shebiyoto London, when he was visiting London, Biker Begana Chayot. V'ra'asham chayot shonot u'mushunot v'nesher yafeh mod. He saw a beautiful eagle and lots of interesting animals. he saw an eagle that is 100 years old. Now, I just want to tell you something in brackets about this chita, that I got very excited about this chita because I, as you may know, grew up in London. And when I was a little boy, I used to go to the London Zoo. And the London Zoo is the same place that the chita went to and wrote about it. Isn't that amazing?
How's the London Zoo?
Well, there's an eagle there, which is over 100 years old. It's amazing.
Is it still living?
I don't know. It's amazing. You should go there. It's a nice place. It doesn't compare to the Jerusalem Zoo. You should all go to the Gan Chayot here.
Is better than the London Zoo?
Can't compare. It's in Jerusalem, for starters.
There also like a big Shemesh Zoo that has like all sorts of people.
Oh, for you, Yitzchak,
Yes.
there is a whole area called the Australian. Have you been there?
I've been there, yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. But I think London.
Lichvodcha, huh?
I think London is a better zoo.
Yeah, London's not bad. It's been quite a while since I was at the London Zoo.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yes, okay, I want to continue reading about these animals. Okay, we see, this is now, so Rav Ovad Yosef is bringing testimony from various rabbis who got quite excited about seeing animals. We see, we see many great people who have gone to a zoo. No one has ever indicated that there's anything wrong with going to the zoo. Why? Because when I go to the zoo, it is the opposite of what we were saying about other activities. I see the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You follow? So this visit will enhance my relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You follow? As opposed to other things where those activities may be celebrating a lifestyle that is anti-Torah. Here, I'm spending my leisure time in an activity that will enhance my relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore he's in favor. Aval chalila lalechel lemekomot shemishtaashim b'maaseh achzariyut. But any place where they act with cruelty towards animals, then that is an anti-Torah activity, and therefore I shouldn't be involved with that. Okay, those are the words of the Yechavedat. I think that's really beautiful. I mean, I'm not sure where to put a sports stadium nowadays. I don't know if a sports stadium is celebrating a lifestyle that is anti, and it is. Okay.
Is it? How?
In my opinion.
Oh, really? Why do you say that? Not that.
Why?
Explain.
Okay, because it's part of Western culture
Right.
to go there.
Right.
So if you enjoy it, like in my opinion, like you go there for you want to enjoy Western lifestyle. This is why you go there or watch the. Same things all of us like.
What if you want to celebrate?
No,
Spoil the fun for everybody.
I mean, it's true.
No, so the truth is,
Celebrating the greatness. Of,
if I would feel that they are celebrating something that is sort of anti my relationship with Torah, then I certainly shouldn't go. I mean, I think that you could discuss football stadiums, but I think they're probably concerts that we shouldn't go to. Their museums are probably not all museums, but they're probably some concerts, some exhibitions that are celebrating a lifestyle that is anti-Torah lifestyle. Then I don't want to be lured. I don't want my Yetzer Hara to be woken up in those activities. Okay, the last topic today is two different positions concerning like films and television. Watching television, watching films. The internet today has changed things really quite dramatically. It's so difficult to to know how to draw a line, to know what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. It's a slippery slope. I mean, we're not just talking about, in the olden days it was like turning on, BBC One and see what's on. But nowadays on a phone, the options are much greater. I don't want to speak about phones for a while, because I want to talk more about television. There are two things, though. There are two things with a phone or if watching films. First thing is, you should have a filter, obviously, on your phones, because a filter sometimes, like innocent people could end up with content that's not appropriate, but a filter can, not always, but can normally protect you from that, which is good. That's number one. But the second issue, which is the issue I want to talk about more now, and not less, meaning this is the thing I want to talk about more, and that's more about, is it good or is it bad? Like, can I watch television? Should I watch these things, or should I not? Should I be watching at all? So on that issue, there are two positions here, and we'll read both of them, and I imagine one will resonate with some of you, and the other one will resonate with both of you, but both of them are written by Torah scholars. The first one, source number 10, is also written by Rav Ovadia Yosef. You know, he wrote 2 books of Shutim. Yechaveh Da'at, which was source number 1, is based on a radio or television show where people would call in and he would rattle off an answer he would give an answer, and then that answer was written up. But a more scholarly book of responsa by Rav Ovadia Yosef is the second book, which is Yabia Omer. Now look at what he writes over here. Talks about watching television. I don't know the context. I can't remember. Everything's written so far is talking about somebody who walked past the television. Aval. Somebody who brings a television into your home. And I have to say, for all intents and purposes, anyone who owns a smartphone, say, has got a television in their home. Okay, so listen to what he says. Isur gamor. It's absolutely forbidden. Now, Moshav Leitzim u'Bitul Torah, I like our definition. Moshav, it's celebrating an anti-Torah lifestyle that will lead to Bitul Torah. The Bitul Torah isn't the 20 minutes that I'm watching an episode of something, but it's the impact on my relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu afterwards that it will lead to Bitul Torah. I mean, also the 20 minutes weren't great in themselves, so it's not only the 20 minutes, it's also the consequences. Okay. V'od ba sheyesh shoresh porei rosh v'la'ana shemegare yetzer hara ba'atzmo. We saw this before. It wakes up the yetzer hara inside of you. על ידי מראות נקעים במחזה שווה ומתוחים, ובכל דרכי הפריצות והתועבות הרעות אשר שנא השם משחית נפשו הוא יעשנה, ועתיד הוא ליתן את הדין. You just can't avoid it. It is celebrating, but on the screen, a lifestyle that is just anti-Torah. You follow? I'm not sure that he says anything new. You can read till the end. Huh?
Same thing with sports channels.
Oh, okay, yeah. Could be. Okay.
You just don't like sports now, don't you?
No, I don't like it. It's worth the time.
Okay.
I mean, I don't enjoy it.
You're like in Germany though. What's that like?
So what?
Okay. So really, what is it? Okay, he quotes various other people that agree with him, but it's a very, very powerful tool, a television, and the lifestyle, the culture that is so professionally being sold. I don't know how much money is invested, but it's like millions and millions of dollars on every, like I watch 20 minutes or something, so the amount of money that was invested in those 20 minutes is even more than is invested in this video.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
And it's probably maybe like I don't think I would ask my own rabbi this, but like it's something I probably said no to this, but like my Ulpan teacher says to me, watch Shtizzle with subtitles.
Shtizzle.
Watch this with subtitles, and maybe that with subtitles. And obviously, like she's suggesting relatively apparently SNES material. See, I don't know these shows. And apparently, another ones where like one Ethiopian guy's married as an Ashkenazi guy. Apparently, that's a real Ashkenazi woman.
Yes, I don't know.
Like some TV that's. So the question is, when you have a productive purpose, like improving your Ivrit or like Hebrew,
Oh,
or even like that's sort of another complication. I think Lamaisa, I don't want to watch TV because
We're making money.
like whether it's the Avadra Yosef or just purely because I think it's brain death. Like, like I don't like watching TV, but I would say that this would actually help my Hebrew. So it would be like I guess I'm not asking for psak, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely not asking for psak. But I guess like the question is like how would you pass that or test on that?
yeah, it's very difficult. The true Rav Vajra is correct that there's billions of dollars being invested to sell this culture, and it's impossible not to be impacted by
On
it.
the street, there's advertisements for movies and shows all over.
Yeah.
Not maybe thank God not in Yerushalayim, but
Yeah.
No one
Anyway, that's
yeah, there is.
the other side. The other side of the argument is a Rav Man.
At least at the crossing.
Rabbi, I should also tell
The
you,
train stuff.
I met
Right.
Rebbitzin the Tanya man
Ah,
on Motzei Shabbos,
yeah.
and she wants to set me up. She gave me a number of resumes.
Oh yeah, they are. They're
But
good.
I also told her,
Oh, Bezrat
she
Hashem.
myself, she was like, you should totally meet my husband. You
Yes,
so well.
you should definitely meet him.
And because we were talking about Eretz Hamza, and apparently he's a teacher, Rebbe in YU
Yes,
as well.
he's yes, that's
But,
right. He used to teach. Does he still teach in YU?
well, that's what she said. Yeah.
He used to teach in the Grus program.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rabbi Mann is. Oh, he writes actually in the Torah Tippets every week. He's a phenomenal Talmid Chacham.
Yeah.
Many years ago, there was a yeshiva in Katamon, and I had the honor of teaching with him in that yeshiva.
Wow.
And there's a boy actually that this yeshiva closed down maybe 15 years ago, but he continues to this day to learn to have a weekly chavrusa with this boy.
Wow.
He's an incredible person. Anyway,
What did he live?
I think how not.
Oh wow.
Minashamayim. Okay, so listen to what. Do you see what he writes over here? So he says, somebody was asked a question about children watching computer games and DVDs. So he says, don't look at the container, but what's in it. They're tools. Now the question is how you're using it. You follow? I'm gonna read at the bottom. Let us conclude and say that, as with any instrument, we should use it with wisdom in order to enrich the worlds of children and not to damage them, God forbid. Okay, it's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult to come to a conclusion about television. I'll tell you something about I have a son. He's wonderful. Some of you have met him. He's in 9th grade, I think. Yesterday, so they've got Bein Hazmanim, and in his yeshiva, they have a mivtza. I mean, they trust the boys won't lie. But any boy that doesn't look at any screen during the course of the whole of Bein Hazmanim will get a very significant monetary reward. And any boy that only uses it for, I don't know, making phone calls, but not watch any films, they'll get a second sum. And then there's, if some boys under 5 minutes or whatever it is. But the push is to have no looking at any screen for the whole month of Nisan. Now you're thinking that's impossible because I've got my smartphone and I need it. But there's a certain purity. That you go on a tiyul.
Will they by any chance give me a flip phone?
Huh?
Will they give me a flip phone?
They were just like a flip phone with text.
I can do it.
With
I
text
can do it
messages.
easily, actually.
Yeah.
Done it
So can we
for a year.
specify what? So the issue with smartphones is like the fact that you can watch films and TV and whatever on it.
Yeah.
So
I think
say
you
have a
can
smartphone.
get engrossed in it. You can get lost in it.
So if you have a smartphone, you're not using I have a smartphone, but I'm not using it for any movies or TV.
Oh yeah, that's fine. They're using it. They're
I use it
like
for GPS, move it, whatever it is.
yeah, and then a flip.
WhatsApp.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, screen time. I think means screen TV time.
Okay.
Like any TV time. But if I'm using Move It or Google Maps, that's obviously fine. Yeah, I think that's a lovely solution to it. Sweet, wonderful people. Any questions before we tie up? Joy and happiness. I want to bless us all Be'ezrat Hashem, I really think that we've reached some clarity here. I very, very much like the story of Rav Lichtenstein and Rav Soloveitchik, that Zman Chorev is the main course. And now you are absolutely full. You just might need to sit down for half an hour to digest that delicious food that you've been enjoying for the last 6 months. Just digest it for a half an hour or 4 weeks. But after 6 months, that translates to 4 weeks of Bein Hazmanim, to digest the sweetness and the beauty that you've had the honor to digest for the last 6 months. I wish you Hatzlacha Rabbah in that digestion. And my prayer for you and for me and for all of us is that we should never find ourselves, chas v'sholom, in a situation where they are celebrating a lifestyle that is anti-Torah, and that would chas v'sholom lead us to not come back with a excitement, but rather we should digest the delicious main course that we've just concluded in Zman Chorev, and we should return in a month hungry for the next course of the meal. Yishar koach to all of you. Tizkulu mitzvot.